Sex. Who, although they are married, could not possibly endure...
Get them out.
Patience, Ginny. Patience.
Get them out!
Dr. McFarlane!
Mrs. Trout.
There's no place for women in a medical school. Get them out!
If you do not bring this classroom under control, I am going to repeat every word of this disgusting lecture to your charming wife.
My friend Jenny Trout was not the only woman to face this kind of thing in medical school. But she would become the first woman licensed to practice medicine in Canada.
Hey everybody, it's Mark in the Park.
Tune in to Rogers TV and watch Mark in the Park as I go on a 10-day interior canoe trip in Algonquin Provincial Park.
We get some hard times, some sweaty times. This isn't rain. And some old times with lots of relics around the park.
Lots of fun and pain. Canoeing, awesome. Portages, not so awesome. You're lucky there is no such thing as smell-o-vision.
This is Rogers TV.
We'll start the meeting in 1 minute. On va commencer la réunion dans 1 minute. Merci. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Bonjour, mesdames et messieurs. Bienvenue à la Conseil municipal de la ville d'Ottawa pour une réunion spéciale.
Welcome to City Council special meeting on December 18.
Council meeting for the 18th of December. The meeting will be held through electronic participation in accordance with Section 238 of the Municipal Act, as amended by COVID-19 Economic Recovery Act 2020. Those who are able to, please rise for a moment of personal reflection. Great, thank you very much. A few reminders for today's meetings, which is being held using Zoom. Members of council and staff, please stay on mute at all times until asked to speak. Members of council, if you wish to speak, please use the raise hand feature located at the bottom of the participants list in Zoom, *9 for members on the phone. This meeting will be broadcast on Rogers TV. Members and staff are asked to position their cameras so their faces are centered and as close to the top of the frame as possible. And phone-in participants, please do not put the phone on hold. Deputy Clerk, please, the roll call. Thank you.
Councillor Luloff?
Présent.
Councillor Dudas?
Ici.
Councillor Harder?
Here.
Councillor Suds?
Here.
Councillor El Shantiri?
Present.
Councillor Gower?
Here.
Councillor Kavanagh?
Here.
Councillor Shirelli? Councillor Egloy? Councillor Deans?
Here.
Councillor Tierney?
Présent.
Councillor Fleury?
Bonjour.
Councillor King?
Here.
Councillor McKenney?
Present.
Councillor Leeper?
Here.
Councillor Brockington?
Good morning.
Councillor Menard?
Good morning.
Councillor Cloutier?
Présent.
Councillor DeRuze?
Here.
Councillor Moffat?
Here, I think you skipped one.
I'm here.
Councillor Meehan?
Kip is here.
I'm here. Councillor Hubley?
Here.
Mayor Watson?
You see?
You have a quorum, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Declaration of interest, including those originally arising from prior meetings. Déclaration de conflit d'intérêt. None. Communications as presented. No regrets filed to date. Motions, motion, planning, infrastructure, and economic development. I'll ask, we have a motion that we'll put up on the screen and then a presentation by staff. It's about 4 pages long, so I'll just read the be it resolved. Therefore, be it resolved that City Council delegate the authority to the GM of Planning, Infrastructure and Economic Development, GM of PIED, to continue to detail and refine the project list as found on Appendix 1 to this motion and make substitutions to the list as required in the event that new information impacts the proposed project's eligibility or deliverability in consultation with finance and legal services. 2, to submit the application based on the final list for the Government of Canada's Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program on behalf of the City of Ottawa. And be it further resolved that Council direct the GM of PIED to inform Council by way of memo of the final list of projects and to continue to update Council on the status of the application and subsequent funding. And be it further resolved that Council authorize the GM to finalize a letter of agreement reflecting the city's partnership with the Boys and Girls Club of Ottawa for a youth services facility on a leased portion of 1770 Etherington Road prior to January 7th, 2021 to comply with the program requirements. And be that further resolved that Council authorize the GM to enter into a lease agreement with the Boys and Girls Club of Ottawa to the Finance and Economic Development Committee for committee and council approval no later than Q2 2021. Further be it resolved in consideration of the short program timelines that should any of the projects found in Appendix 1 be deemed ineligible by the province for any reason, that the GM of PIED be authorized to substitute an application for a comparable project provided the Council is notified by a memorandum within 2 weeks of the revised submission. And be it further resolved, the Council delegated authority of the CFO Treasurer to establish accounts and funds and fund the design of submitted proposed projects or any other upfront costs that would not be eligible from funding from the ICIP COVID-19 resilience stream by refinancing any projects on the list that include previously approved municipal funding and fund from the citywide capital reserve any remaining funds required for these eligible upfront costs up to $2 million. And be it further resolved that upon approval from the Government of Canada, that Council delegate the authority to the GM to enter in the necessary agreements with federal and or provincial governments in consultation with the CFO Treasurer and the City Solicitor. So that's moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Dudas, and we have a presentation. Karina Duclos is going to give us a presentation on the projects that staff are recommending. So Karina, the floor is yours, please. I think you might be on mute there, Karina.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for the presentation to be uploaded.
Okay, great. There it is.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good morning to you and good morning to all members of council. My name is Karina Duclos, and I am the Acting Director for Infrastructure Services in the Planning, Infrastructure, and Economic Development Department. I am pleased to be here today to deliver a presentation on our proposal for investments for the COVID-19 resilience funding stream. Next, please. As you are aware, Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program, known as ICIP, has identified a new COVID-19 resilience funding stream created to support pandemic response and economic recovery. The City of Ottawa has been allocated $20.1 million, and the city is not required to cost share under this stream. The program has a cap of 5 projects. While the program has a $10 million cap per project submission, staff is recommending that no single project surpass $5 million out of consideration for the city's geography and wide spectrum of needs, as well as equity in the distribution of funding. Next, please. The COVID-19 resilience infrastructure stream will support public infrastructure, including temporary infrastructure related to pandemic response, primarily for public use and/or benefit. To be eligible, projects must comply with one of the 4 categories and asset type. Projects with same recipient, project category, and asset type may be bundled into one submission. Each bundle counts as one of Ottawa's 5 submissions. Category 1, retrofits, repairs, and upgrades, includes only project components in or on buildings. Category 2, COVID-19 response infrastructure, includes buildings or infrastructure modifications to support physical distancing, safety retrofits, and expansions. Category 3, active transportation infrastructure, includes parks, trails, footbridges, bike lanes, and multi-use paths. Category 4, disaster mitigation and adaptation, includes natural infrastructure, flood and fire mitigation, tree planting, and related infrastructure. Next, please. On this slide, we are providing some example of projects and costs that are not eligible under the program. Any project for which construction has already started, acquisition of or leasing of land, building, and other facilities, tourism infrastructure, facilities that are home to a professional sport team, or standalone planning projects, such as studies, environmental assessments. A complete description of the eligibility can be found in the program guide. Next, please. We received over 160 projects from councillors, other departments, and community-based organizations. So how did we get our list of proposed projects? Projects were assessed by staff as to if they met the funding criteria, can the project be delivered within the prescribed timeframe, and can the project be bundled with similar projects in order to optimize the city's allocation. When considering the projects, a lens was also applied for meeting areas of critical needs. Those areas have been identified by the city's Economic Recovery Task Force, and they are human needs, active transportation and recreation, economic development, disaster and climate resilience, and retrofits and upgrade to municipal health infrastructure. Next, please. As previously noted, projects may be bundled into one submission. Each bundle counts as one of Ottawa's 5 submissions. This allows staff to optimize the investments. So we are submitting 5 projects grouped as described on the slides. Submission 1 for $1.3 million will cover category 1 for retrofits, repairs, and upgrades for health buildings, and includes digital connectivity in facilities in vulnerable communities, and repairs and upgrades to shelters. Submission 2 for $4.4 million under Category 1 for retrofit repairs and upgrades for municipal buildings, and includes LED lighting in facilities, building repairs and upgrades. Submission 3, it's our joint project for $5 million under Category 2 to build and modify infrastructure to respond to COVID-19 pandemic, Boys and Girls Club, Ottawa South End Clubhouse. Next slide, please. Submission 4 for $860,000 under Category 2 to build or modify infrastructure to respond to COVID-19 pandemic, includes standalone and self-cleaning public washrooms. And Submission 5 for $8.5 million under Category 3, active transportation infrastructure, includes pedestrian crossovers, known as PXOs, picnic facilities in parks, multi-use pathways, sidewalks, and wayfinding. And it's a mix of new and renewal infrastructure. Next, please. This slide describes the timelines for our program. We received final councilors' priorities by November 27 of this year. We compiled them and analyzed them along with projects identified by others. We issued the ICIP memo to council on December 16, 2020, and we are here today to present our proposal. The upcoming deadlines are for January 7, 2021, applications are to be submitted. Funding decisions are anticipated by the spring of 2021. All projects are to start construction by September 30, 2021, and all projects are to be completed by December 31st of 2021. Next, please. Through a motion to council, we will be seeking delegated authority to enable the applications and execution of the program. This has been a great effort of many, and I would like to thank Mr. Mayor and members of council, staff, for all the participation and support. We will continue maintaining the list of candidate projects for use in the future programs, and we will continue to position ourselves ready for all future funding opportunities. Thank you for your attention. We will be happy to answer questions.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Karina, and your entire staff. A lot of work went into this project in a limited amount of time. And thank you all, colleagues on council, for making time to be here this morning, a week away from Christmas, so we can consider the lists of projects brought forward as part of the COVID-19 resilience stream local government intake under the Investing in Canada infrastructure program. I want to begin by thanking our partners at the federal and provincial levels for reprofiling this money and enabling us to fund projects in our community worth over $20 million. Without this COVID resilience funding, the city could not have delivered these projects in 2021. I also want to thank city staff for their great work and quick turnaround in producing this list with input from councillors, city departments, and a few partner organizations who reached out to us with their suggested projects. I believe staff have done a very good job of ensuring that there is a fair distribution of funding and projects in all parts of the city, while helping us deliver strategic investments in areas of need as we continue to address the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. Ce programme d'infrastructure nous aide à livrer des projets.
This program will help us deliver important projects for the community in 2021.
Facilities that offer programming for children and residents, including from low-income and racialized communities in the Hetherington area. This includes a $5 million contribution to a new South End clubhouse for the Boys and Girls Club of Ottawa, as well as a $750,000 investment towards the $1.5 million expansion of the Beacon Hill North Community Centre. Ces deux centres offriront de la programmation importante.
These two centers will offer important programs for youth and residents in these areas.
In our social infrastructure by upgrading the ventilation systems and shelters and equipping them with generators so they can respond to the needs of vulnerable residents at all times. These projects will prepare these shelters to deal with future viruses while making them more climate resilient. with a particular focus on active transportation and safety, as well as retrofits and upgrades to buildings. We also are delivering 10 LED lighting projects in arenas and pools, investments in over a dozen MUPs, bike facilities and sidewalk projects, 11 PXOs and pedestrian signals, 8 picnic areas and parks, 13 Wi-Fi projects in community centers and vulnerable neighborhoods, important investments in the Byward Market, including $950,000 in repairs to the historic Byward Market building, $1.5 million towards energy efficiency upgrades at city facilities and community centers, $350,000 for fire safety panels and security projects for the protection of women at Cornerstone. And these are all great projects in neighborhoods across the city, in the core, the suburbs, and our rural areas. And most of these projects have been requested by councillors and the community for quite some time. Again, I want to thank staff, especially Karina Duclos and Jen Nielsen, for their diligent work on this list over the last few weeks. We have a very good proposal before us today, one that invests in strategic projects with maximum benefits for our residents, and I hope councillors will support it. C'est une très bonne liste de projets et j'espère pouvoir...
It's a very good list of projects, and I hope I can count on the support of all councillors today.
Questions or comments? Councillor Deans, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good morning, everyone. First, a question and then a comment. The question is about, there are several on the list that there's $7,000 for the installation of Wi-Fi in some of our community center buildings. Just wondering if that money is one-time money for the setup and that the city will be taking on the ongoing costs.
Mr. Mayor, thank you for your question, Councillor. So the $7,000 quote came as a package for installation and 36-month operating cost from an existing provider that the city already has. So we are hoping that with the $7,000, we are going to be able to install the hardware and operate the facility for 3 years.
Okay, thank you for that answer. And Mr. Mayor, just my comments in particular on the Boys and Girls Club, because as you know, the recommended Boys and Girls Club house is in Heatherington in my ward. The Boys and Girls Club, I think we all know this, have been an integral part of our city for many years, and they've provided much needed services for thousands of children across the city. They've been a key partner in many high needs communities, including Albion Heatherington. And I have to say that I am absolutely thrilled that this neighborhood has been selected for an expanded service from the Boys and Girls Club in the form of a clubhouse. It feels a little bit to me like Christmas is coming early this year to get this, because there's a long history on this site. This was the old City Works yard, in February of 2014, the city declared it surplus to the city's need and intended to sell it. And I worked really hard. Councillor Harder will remember this. We put up quite a fight to keep that land in city hands, because in neighborhoods like low-income neighborhoods like Heatherington, city land is really important for the development of those neighborhoods. And I just couldn't bear to see it sold for condos in that neighborhood when density is already high there, and obviously community need is very high. So, you know, fast forward 6 years, and because we kept that land, we now have this incredible opportunity to provide a much needed clubhouse to the kids in Heatherington. And I just think there's a lot of thanks to go around to Stephen Beckton, Michelle Taggart, who have been working for months on this project, to Stephen Willis and the city staff who have been working really hard to make this happen. This clubhouse will be transformational. It will change the lives of many low-income kids in the south end of the city. It will give them a start for a better life. And so it does feel like Christmas is coming early, and I just want to thank everybody that was involved in this. It's a happy day for the people in the south end. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Menard, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to staff for bringing this forward and all your work that has gone into this. I know it was a quick turnaround, so thanks for all that you've done. I noticed that we've got a total amount of projects that we're applying for. I think you mentioned 21 million. So, and that's the amount that we're applying for. It's not more than that. It's not less than that. I think it's right on the amount in terms of the Ottawa share. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it looks that way. And I'm just wondering on this infrastructure project, because a lot of them are not created equal. Is this when we're expecting the funding that municipalities request to be confirmed and not have a bunch of tinkering and changes? Because some of them, there's tinkering, there's changes when it gets to the provincial level. Is this one that it's expected the projects we put forward are going to be the ones ostensibly selected?
That's correct.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for that, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Moffat. Councillor Moffat.
Thank you very much. Just a quick question. So in the wording of the motion, in the preamble portion, there was some discussion about how some items, there could still be some changes depending on deliverability. Can Karina just comment on that?
Mr. Mayor, thank you for the question, Councillor. So you saw the slide with the timelines. We were flying, trying to identify the best projects to get the best program put forward, especially with this opportunity of not having to cost share. It was a very fast and difficult exercise, and we did receive the criteria for the program very late in the game. So there was a very, very quick check on the criteria and the deliverability of the projects. We did our best. Now, there are some maybe details that we will have to confirm, and we just want to make sure that we have the opportunity to make a change if the criteria is not met, either because of the delivery of the project or other issues that we may have missed, and not be able to put a replacement project and use the entire funding.
Thank you. So on that, when you review the list, there's one ward that's kind of glaringly absent. And to that degree, and I wish I had considered this back when I was submitting ideas for Ward 21. But last fall, I had the opportunity to go out to Fellows Road and learn of a fairly significant gap in the infrastructure, in the sidewalk network leading up to a school, École élémentaire catholique de Terre des Jeunes. And I was out there with the city staff as well as the principal of the school. And it's a 400-meter section of sidewalk that covers Parkway, Drury Lane, and Fellows Road. And again, I hate to nitpick because it's one project and it's a big city, but just curious if anything happens, if anything were to occur where something had to be shifted around or something couldn't be met, would it be possible that the city could evaluate that project for its feasibility? It's very well possible that it's not actually achievable within 1 year, but just to consider that project, given that from that community there are no other proposed projects aside from a bit of work on Woodruff.
Mr. Mayor, thank you, Councillor. We will add that to the list of potential replacement projects if we need to go there. Just from the top of my head and listening to your description, I would probably say my gut feeling is saying that we cannot deliver in a year. You know what it takes when especially when it's a brand new sidewalk, we need to do drainage. There's a lot that goes into that. So probably the deliverability of that project would be a challenge. But we will add it to the list of potential projects. The list keeps growing, and I like to remind you that this is just the tip of the iceberg, and we are expecting more funding, and we are positioning to be successful with that funding. And any project that may not have been able to be delivered that we receive, it's piling up on the list that we had before for any funding that is coming down the pipe.
Okay, that's perfect. No, I appreciate that. I mean, it's a sidewalk. I know it's identified in the TMP. It's a phase 3 project in the TMP, but it was identified a bit as a priority, just given a certain situation there in that one community with transportation needs and school busing and school drop off. It's a regional school that comes from a long distance, and there's a lot of safety concerns there that the school identified. So anyways, I appreciate that. That's all. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Councillor Moffat. Councillor Brockington, please. Good morning.
Thank you, Mayor, and good morning to you and colleagues. First of all, I'm very happy to see money in every ward. Let's be frank, as councillors, when the city gets money and it's only allocated to 2 or 3 wards, yes, we're happy the city gets money, but you always want resources and opportunities for your own ward. I'll admit that. So I'm very happy to see it being spread, and I'm sure staff had a challenge trying to identify those projects with the timelines and criteria. Thank you for the work that you've put into it. Just to complement Councillor Dean's comments about the Boys and Girls Clubhouse, very happy to see this as well. Certainly happy to see it in Hetherington, and really as the pitch was made for this clubhouse, it really will be serving multiple wards, not just Gloucester Southgate. You have Heron Gate literally across the street in Alta Vista ward. You have Banff Ledbury not too far in my ward, and this is really a multi-ward clubhouse that will benefit many, so I'm highly supportive of this. To staff, just one question. Very, very happy to see the digital connectivity, a long time coming in many of our community centers and clubhouses. I like the list, particularly in River Ward. One that's missing is Hunt Club Riverside Park Community Center that serves over 20,000 people. Can staff just identify when that center will be fully equipped?
Mr. Mayor, thank you for your question, Councillor. I do not have an answer to you, but I can take away and get back to you after.
Yeah, where I'm going is in Carlington, you have 3 centers identified for connectivity. One is the Carlington Rec Center. And what I would suggest is if there's an opportunity to swap Hunt Club Riverside Park with this one, that would be great. And the reason is the rec center is literally a gym. The other centers have the multiple rooms. They're more used, and maybe Hunt Club Riverside would be better bang for our buck. So I just want to plant that with staff and see if that opportunity exists. My last question, Mayor, is just about bike infrastructure. Lots of money for sidewalks and a lot of MUPs that are identified, but not a lot of detail on bike infrastructure. Can staff just comment on this, please?
Mr. Mayor, yes, Councillor, you are correct. You've been through a lot of projects that include cycling infrastructure in the past, and you probably can figure out that the design and the implementation of a project like that will put us behind the substantial completion date that we need to achieve by the end of 2021. So it's not that we did not look at cycling infrastructure. We look at every single piece of especially connectivity issues like that we want to resolve, but we cannot deliver by the end of 2021. So we needed to come up with projects that we knew can comply with the program to make sure that we were successful.
Okay, very well. I know that issue's been raised. I think this list is very good. Thank you for trying to address issues in every ward, and I will be supporting the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Kavanaugh, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I had a chance to ask a few questions last night to Karina. Thank you very much for answering me late at night. One of the questions I had was, I appreciated the digital connectivity. It was something I had been asking for. I had met with staff earlier about this because I saw the need in the community very much, as we all did. The 3 places that are chosen are all places where we have a city facility. We have a community center that is a city community center. The place that was missing was Britannia Woods, and which is also a very high need area. And the reason I think that we weren't able to do anything is because we don't have a facility there. It's on its own. So that's something to look for in the future. We've already had that discussion. about how to help that community out, which everyone knows is in need. I just wanted to get an idea of, it's already been touched on, but how the digital connectivity will work, and is this something that has been driven by COVID? Is this something that, what does it look like going forward, and how it's going to be used? I thought it was going to, be helpful to the actual people in the community in their homes, but it's just in the facility. But is this meant for, is it being pictured to be used by students coming into the building? And during COVID times, how does it look? What are we picturing here of how it works?
Mr. Mayor, thank you, Councillor. So the spirit of installing digital connectivity at these locations is to provide the community that surrounds those buildings a place where they can go and connect to the internet. Not everybody has Wi-Fi in their homes. And with COVID and isolation, it's important to keep people connected. It's also a possibility for them to, through the use of Wi-Fi, connect to city services. We have a lot to offer on our ozone, on our Ottawa.ca for our residents, and the inability for them to access them, it's problematic. So by giving them a hotspot that they can go with their computer, laptop, phones, or whatever they have, it's an opportunity to reach those communities.
Okay, so it's not going to have computers like in a library or anything where they can go to if they didn't have anything. They're bringing a device in and using the Wi-Fi. That's what it's meant to be. Is that correct? Like there's no...
Yes, Councillor, that's correct. It's the Wi-Fi to the facility.
Okay, and in that 7,000, is that for this year? How does it work in the long term? In terms of what's the upkeep of it, the ongoing cost to have that Wi-Fi?
The information I can provide today is that the 7,000 includes 36 months of operating cost. I don't have further details, so if you wish to have further details to that, I need to get back to you.
Well, certainly we'll need to give some information to the community to let them know how it can be used, and it's very much a step forward. In terms of the Carling Family Shelter, it's a large sum of money and very much appreciated because we know it's a building in need. And what concerns me is if this money hadn't come along, what would we have done? Because we saw a report from the Auditor General about how we're falling behind in our infrastructure and repairs. And I couldn't help but wonder what would have happened if we hadn't done this with this money.
Mr. Mayor, well, as you know, we have a lot of facilities in the city that require work. So we would have compare the needs of this facility with other needs across the organization and balance priorities based on risk like we do with many other projects, not just facilities.
Okay, well, I appreciate because a family shelter is not usually something that screams out for itself and as much as something in a community. And I appreciate that it's been prioritized because I know it's very much in need. Is there anything in this that's helping in terms of COVID? Because I know overcrowding is obviously a problem as well. Is there? It's the digital connectivity and the generator and air conditioning, but I'm always concerned about the crowding. Is there anything else that's being done that's helping out on that score?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor, it's Shelley Van Busker from Housing Services. So we had reduced at the start of COVID, we had reduced the capacity in the Carling Family Shelter to promote physical distancing. So, and put, all of the recommended Ottawa public health practices in operating at probably less than 50% capacity at the Carling Family Shelter.
Okay. So that will continue, I guess, for a while. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. I have to admit, I was concerned when I saw Ward 8. In fact, I discovered there was an error because it says something about going from a sidewalk that went from the Queensway to Carling, which would have been Ward 7. And it was pointed out to me after, that it was actually a piece on the south side, it wasn't anything about Carling. I'm sure there was other projects, and I'd like to think that residents all across the city would benefit from this. So I appreciate the comments from Councillor Moffat on what he's observed there as well in terms of needs. But I appreciate the help on the shelter and the digital connectivity, and we'll talk further about Britannia Woods because we know it's in need. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Tierney, please.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I agree with Councillor Deans. It kind of feels like Christmas, and it's not all the time that you can say there's some good things that come out of COVID. Just so you know, behind me, that's the Beacon Hill Community Center. Yes, it's a shoebox. There's no windows. It's very, very small. And for many, many years, I've been working with you, Mr. Mayor, and hoping this would actually take place. Good examples of when it becomes a challenge in your community. We had a federal election not too long ago, and we are always dependent on the local schools to be able to use their gymnasiums for debates and other things that take place during those election periods. When you can't even have a local community center access to be able to do those kind of things, it becomes more and more challenging. So I won't take up too much time. I just, again, want to thank staff for all the hard work that's been put into this. And I'll point out that Councillor Kitts used to teach hip hop and dance at this community center back in the day. Feel free to come back anytime after the renovation's complete. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Great, thank you. Councillor El-Shantiri, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'd like to echo my thanks to staff and especially Karina for answering some of the questions last night. Karina, in your presentation, you talk about a flood resilient, but I didn't see anything about flood resilient. Am I missing something? There's some community can see benefit by provide them with generators, portable washroom or additional portable washroom. We all know it's not if we have another flood, it's going to be when we have another floods in our community. But there's no, I didn't see anything. Am I missing something, please, about the floods resilience?
Mr. Mayor, thank you for your question, Councillor. You're absolutely right. And we did look at projects for that category very hardly because we understand the needs. The projects we identified, they were all unable to be delivered by the end of 2021. We had shorelines restoration that we need to do. We have a lot of identified needs that we thought we were going to explore and try to deliver, but we cannot put any of those projects in because of the timelines. However, we did add a generator to the Cardell Center in Stittsville, and the thought was to equip that facility that is a little bit isolated to be able to respond to emergency situations and have people in a situation that we don't have power.
Well, I understand the logic. I'm not saying Stittsville don't need it. Probably every community in the city should be equipped with generator in case of emergency, and we've seen quite a bit lately. But the flood area, which is where people live, it doesn't seem there's any recommendation for that flood resilient, whether generators or others in the area. Even I see Jen in a call with you. We even send a letter to the province asking to make those roads safe during the floods. And the province obviously have COVID-19 come along. We didn't get a positive response. But there's a plan to revisit those roads to make them safer during emergency or during floods emergency?
Mr. Mayor, Councillor, yes, we've spoken about those roads in Constance Bay specifically, and we did look at the eligibility. The challenge with the eligibility on this particular one is around making the connection back to COVID-19, and also, as Karina said, the timelines for being able to deliver. When we work close to waterways, it can be very challenging, and there's extra constraints that we don't have when we're working in other areas. So we felt that it would be too risky to try to undertake those projects given the very, very short timelines that we have on this program. But we are keeping all of these projects on our list for future funding opportunities.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Eglai, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I apologize for being a little bit late to the meeting. I had a medical appointment, but I wanted to, first of all, thank staff for putting together this list. In particular, in my area, I want to thank you for the inclusion of a PXO by St. Rita's School. This has been an ongoing issue for some time, and it certainly shows staff is listening to the councillors and to the communities in terms of putting together the list on very short notice. On that point, though, I'm wondering if there we've heard from you several times that there's likely going to be at least one more round of stimulus type funding. And while staff was excellent, and a number of my colleagues have mentioned this already in answering questions over the last 24 hours or so, I'm sure that was stressful for staff. It was stressful for councillors to try to wrap their heads around the projects and how they were chosen. Does it look like there may be some additional or more advanced notice for the next round where there could be more of a dialogue over a longer period of time? To sort of decide which projects and how they fit into the various wards and the city's infrastructure as a whole.
Mr. Mayor, thank you, Councillor. And yes, we're actually flying. We provided as much notice as possible. Like I mentioned earlier, we received the criteria pretty late in November. And we had a list of 160 projects that we needed to cross-check with the criteria and then sit down with our delivery guys and make sure that they could deliver the projects or not. So it was a very, very difficult exercise to come up with the list we defined. And as you saw, even after the list was put out, we had to make some adjustments and some last-minute changes. We'll do our best to submit our ideas or maybe our draft to council as early as possible for future funding programs.
Yeah, and Karina, please, it's not a criticism. I know you guys worked flat out to come up with this list, and it's very comprehensive. But as I say, it put a lot of stress on you and your colleagues, and in turn on councillors to try and figure out how it all fit into their wards and communities as a whole. So anything we can do next time to give everybody a little bit more lead time, I think would be helpful. But please do not take it as a criticism. I think the team did a fabulous job. I think Councillor Brockton spoke to it. There's projects in every single ward in the city, and I know around this table that's very much appreciated. So thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Luloff, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I really appreciate the work that staff did on this, and I know how difficult it was with such a short lead time. Lots of pathway renewal in my ward. Really appreciate that. People trying to get out and get some fresh air with the ongoing pandemic. It's great for mental health and for our physical health, so I do really appreciate that. Just a question on renewals. When we do renew these pathways, will we be bringing them up to AODA standard? I know that a lot of pathways in my ward were built prior to the AODA, so I'm just wondering if tactical wayfinding, surface indicators, and that sort of thing are going to be included in these renewals.
Mr. Mayor, yes, Councillor, every project we do, when we touch it, it is brought up to AODA standards.
Really appreciate that, and thanks for your work.
Great. Thank you, Councillor Luloff. Councillor Meehan, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And yes, thank you to staff. Just one quick question. I do appreciate the funds that were allocated to Ward 22. Is there an opportunity maybe to substitute one project for another? Is that possible if it adheres to all the criteria and the funding? If we think something is a little bit more of a priority than one of that was chosen by staff?
Well, we can definitely, Mr. Mayor, we can definitely take that away, Councillor. We have the funding allocations to these projects already distributed, but we can have a discussion and take that away.
Okay. Thank you very much. And again, thank you for all your work, and Merry Christmas if I don't talk to you again. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Councillor Meehan. I see no other hands up. So again, my sincere thanks to staff. As you know, both federal and provincial governments are working at the speed that normally governments don't work at to get as many of these dollars out to the community to help with economic stimulus and to help those vulnerable members of our community. So we did the same with the rapid housing and now with this, and we'd all obviously like to have more time, but time is of the essence, and we want to make sure we don't miss any of the deadlines, because if we do, the costs beyond the deadline fall directly to our shoulders and our taxpayers' shoulders. So I appreciate the great work that our staff did on a limited amount of time and the input that members of council gave our staff. So we have the motion by myself, seconded by Councillor Dudas. Carried?
Carried.
Thank you. Our final item on the agenda for today's meeting and for this year is the Auditor General hiring panel. Information on the recommended candidate has been sent to every member of council. Does anyone wish to go in camera at this point before we have a presentation? Anyone have any in-camera questions? Okay. So Councillor Cloutier, as Chair of Audit, has a motion that he will read, and then it's seconded by myself, who chaired the panel, the hiring panel. Before he just introduces that, I would like to say thank you very, very much to members of the selection panel. It was Councillor Luloff, Councillor Meehan, Councillor Dudas, Councillor DeRuse, Councillor Cloutier. I believe that was it, and myself. And they put in a lot of hours. We had several meetings, and we want to thank those colleagues of yours who worked up until basically 6 o'clock last night with the final reference check by our consulting firm. So a big thank you to those colleagues who put in long hours. They may not want to volunteer for another hiring panel because it's actually a lot of heavy lifting. So I appreciate it very much. So Councillor Cloutier, if you'd like to introduce the motion, please.
Merci, Monsieur le Maire. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And yes, I thank you to our colleagues who worked so hard on the hiring panel. And thank you to all the candidates that brought forth their candidacy for this. We had to get through a lot. And with that, I am very pleased to bring forward the following motion. I won't go through all the whereases except for the last one. Whereas on December 17th, 2020, following review of the results of candidate assessments of the final shortlisted candidate from Odgers Berndsen, the external search firm assisting the hiring panel has identified its preferred candidate for City Council's consideration. Therefore, be it resolved that based on the recommendation from the Auditor General hiring panel, City Council appoint Nathalie Goujon be the new Auditor General for the City of Ottawa. Be it further resolved that City Council delegate to the Mayor, in consultation with the City Solicitor and the Director of Human Resources, the authority to negotiate, finalize, and execute the employment contract based on the following general terms and conditions, and in accordance with the statutory officer recruitment, appointment, and contract administration policy and procedures and the Auditor General's Bylaw 2013-375 as amended. A 7-year, non-renewable term beginning on February 1st, 2021, and to expire on January 31st, 2028. A salary range of $190,617 to $241,080, and pension and benefit pursuant to those received by the management and professional exempt group. And be it further resolved that the exercise of this delegated authority be reported out to Council by way of a memo prior to the start date of the new Auditor General early in 2021. Be it further resolved that in accordance with the Cloutier-Luloff motion approved by Council on December 9th, 2020, the current Deputy Auditors General shall continue to operate the Office of the Auditor General on an interim basis in accordance with their delegated statutory powers and duties and pursuant to any requirements relating to the Auditor General under the Municipal Act 2001 and Bylaw 2013-375 as amended until the new Auditor General takes office on February 1st, 2021. Be it further resolved that in accordance with the Cloutier-Luloff motion approved by Council on December 9th, 2020, Council direct the new Auditor General to bring forward an interim audit work plan for 2021 to Audit Committee and to Council by April 2021. And be it further resolved that the Chair of the Audit Committee be directed to work with the new Auditor General and the Chief Procurement Officer to bring forward to Audit Committee and to Council by April 2021 a proposed approach based on current best practices and timelines to undertake the next independent quality assessment review of the Office of Auditor General within the first year of the new Auditor General's mandate. Merci, Monsieur le Maire.
Merci. I'll just read a brief bio, and for I think the benefit of our colleagues in the media, Gougeon is Gougeon. So Natalie Gougeon has been appointed as the city's next Auditor General. Ms. Gougeon is a bilingual chartered professional accountant and a certified internal auditor. She holds a certification in risk management assurance and more than 15 years of experience in the audit field. Ms. Gougeon joins the city from the International Development Research Center, IDRC, a federal crown corporation where she was Director, Risk Management and Internal Audit. She has also worked as a Director of the Office of the Auditor General of Canada with responsibility for various audits. Ms. Gougeon previously held positions in the federal government and private sector and has extensive experience in finance, audit, and other consulting activities within Canada, the United States, France, Italy, Malaysia, Ireland, and Hong Kong. She has a Bachelor of Commerce degree with a double concentration in accounting and corporate finance from a great university, Carleton University. Ms. Gougeon will assume her role as Auditor General, as Councillor Cloutier said, on February 1st, 2021. Her appointment is for a 7-year non-renewable term that will expire on January 31st, 2028. Puis Madame Gougeon est la première
Ms. Gougeon is the first woman francophone to be Auditor General for the City of Ottawa. I'd like to thank all the other candidates for having applied. I'd like to congratulate Ms. Gougeon on her success.
Ms. Gougeon, and we congratulate her. She is the first female Franco-Ontarian to hold the position of Auditor General for the City of Ottawa. Questions and comments, please. No? So we have Councillor Cloutier's motion. On the motion?
Carried.
Carried.
Carried?
Carried.
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 Thank you very much. Next is confirmation bylaw, please.
I think that's for me, Mr. Mayor. So moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Meehan, that the following bylaw be read and passed to confirm the proceedings of the council meeting of December 18th, 2020.
Carried. Councillor Fleury, I had a point of order from you, Councillor.
I do have a communication from Santa to share with members of council, Mr. Mayor.
With the will of council?
Depends on who's naughty on his list, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, I would ask our city clerk if we could put on the screen the image of Santa. Jacob, my 3-year-old son, received a letter from Santa who's asked me to pass along information for all families in Ottawa. Here it goes. Dear Jacob, I, along with Mrs. Claus and the elves, have not stopped preparing for Christmas Eve gift deliveries. À toutes les familles, soyez prêts. Le Père Noël.
All families should be ready. Father Christmas is ready to deliver gifts on the 24th of December.
That I'll be washing my hands and wearing a mask before entering your home. And you don't have to worry about physical distancing. I'll drop off gifts when everyone is asleep. Cette année, j'ai une grande variété de demandes.
So I have a lot of requests for gifts this year. Several people have asked for skates, for skis. Others have asked for gift cards.
2020 has been difficult for all of us, including Santa. At my old age, change is not easy. I will be delivering safely into everyone's home. And after every child has received a gift, I will be resting with my family in my home. Usually in the North Pole, we have a big community gathering. After my deliveries, we play music, we eat good food with a lot of people. But this year, we're staying put. I have had a chance to chat with your doctor, Vera. She is such an inspirational leader and remarkable mother. Ottawa is lucky to have her. She reminded me of ways to keep everyone safe in Ottawa during my tour. I also want to thank Mayor Watson for giving me essential worker status on the 24th. Vous êtes tellement chanceux. Ottawa est...
You're very, very lucky. Ottawa is a phenomenal capital city. You have the opportunity to get outside while you're still respecting the rules. Now, this year, I'll bring a bit of magic to bring renewed energy to frontline workers, nurses, train drivers, bus drivers, teachers, store workers, and to parents, and to all workers who have unstintingly, and to all workers who have worked very hard to keep us safe.
This Christmas is like any other. I hope that you spend time with your family within your home, sharing stories, reading books, baking, and so much more. It is a unique opportunity to connect virtually with friends and family. Rudolph and I plan to host a Zoom karaoke night with ours. Si papa et maman te donnent beaucoup de cadeaux, don't forget, you can always re-gift them, as many families in our community can enjoy a second tour. To all, à tous, joyeux Noël, Santa.
Merry Christmas, Santa.
Merci beaucoup, Père Noël. Thank you, Santa. I just want to leave colleagues with a quote. A friend of mine just sent me a beautiful part of a poem from Tennyson, and I think it sums up 2020. Hope smiles from the threshold of the year to come, whispering, it will be happier. Councillor Deans. Adjourned.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And those are really tough acts to follow, especially when all I have is to adjourn. So let me just wish all of you a safe and COVID-free Christmas and a very happy and healthy New Year. And I look forward to seeing you all and getting back to work for the citizens of this great city. So with that the proceedings, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Meehan, that the proceedings of the City Council meeting of December 18th be adjourned.
On the motion, carried. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to the people of Ottawa. Joyeux Noël.